welcome to the third episode of the Knitting Spring podcast. My name is Tonya and I will be your host. You can find me on Ravelry as Cheeky Monkey, Instagram as Cheeky Monkey1, and all the show notes are at knittingspring.com. I wanted to take a few minutes to thank all of you for leaving comments, subscribing, joining the Ravelry group, introducing yourselves. And I particularly wanted to thank Brenda from the Needle Bee blog for sharing her blog with me, and I think it's really great. I love the name of your blog, The Needle Bee. I think that's just so cute. And I really think it's a well done blog, and I really liked all of the things that you liked that are in season in fashion. I really like fashion a lot myself, so I really enjoyed that particular post, but I really like your blog. And I also wanted to thank Kristen from the Yarngasm podcast for her shout out on her last show and all the wonderful things she had to say about my podcast and mentioning me, and I was really touched, and thank you. That means a lot. I really enjoy her podcast. She was one of the first podcasters that I watched this year, and that was really appreciated by me. The main reason that I didn't record last week is because right after I recorded, I got a sinus infection, and then that led to bronchitis, and I've been pretty much out of it the last couple of weeks. I don't know if my voice sounds groggy today, and I'm going to try to do this without coughing. I'm much better than I was, and even feeling better later part of this last week. So if I cough or something in advance, I apologize. If I can, I'll try to cut any of that out. Another thing I wanted to talk about is iTunes. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I have tried everything I can think of. I've contacted Podcast Garden. I've been Googling, and I'm going to try to stay on it. But for right now, I'm just on YouTube, and I'm going to obviously stick with that. That was a breeze to upload, but I'm trying to figure out the situation with iTunes. It's not iTunes' fault. It just won't even recognize or let me upload an episode, and if it does, it turns out to be a PDF document, which, doesn't do any of us any good. But I'm working on that, and I'll keep you guys updated through the blog or on the Ravelry group and let you guys know when that situation gets resolved. Okay, so let's start with my finished object. I'm so excited. This is the first one that I've had since I've been podcasting that I knitted during podcasting. So these are 2 socks. This is the sock I've been knitting for my friend for Christmas. So 1 Christmas gift done. And also my first entry in the Down Cellar Studio Pigskin Party Cow. That's fun. I got so excited to put my first entry in. And I almost have another one ready to go for that knit along. So that's pretty exciting. This is just a vanilla sock. It's for a man's 10.5 shoe size. I knit it top down, toe up. I used a Turkish cast on, and I used the rounded toe, seam-free rounded toe for a toe-up sock by Lynn Ashton. And it gives me more of a curve. I don't know if you can see that, but it's more curved and rather than the square increases that you normally get from a Turkish cast on. Then I just knit to about 1 inch before I want to start my heel. I do increases for the number of heel stitches that are required. I did an OMG heel, and then I think I did 12 rows for the petty sock and 7 rows for the cuff, and I did a 1x1 twisted rib. The yarn is Miss Babs Hot Shot Base in the Believable colorway, and I think I say this every time I show these socks, but I just love the color of them. Love them. And then I knit these on US ones, and I do them on 2 circulars. I think that's everything for that finished object, and I'm really excited about that. So 1 Christmas gift done, a couple more on the way. My next work in progress is just like a half hour from being finished, maybe an hour. Oh, this is really blowing out on the camera. But this is a fluorescent yellow hat. My brother asked for a fluorescent yellow hat for Christmas. The pattern is Turn a Square by Jared Flood. The yarn is Madeline Tosh Vintage, the Edison Bulb colorway. So if any of you have knit this, you can see and understand why the camera does not want to show this. Maybe a little closer. That's better. You can see, and you can see even some of the variation in the color, so it's not really flat, which I really liked. I was knitting this in the sun the other day, and I could see the tonal. I don't know if you're really going to see that when you're wearing it, but I got to where I couldn't use circulars anymore, and I knit these with a size US 5. Oh, let's see what that is. Sorry, I'm looking at my show notes. A US 5 and a US 7. So the ribbing was a US 5 and the rest is a 7. And then I don't have any size 7 double points. I have 6s, I have 9s, 10s, 8s, 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s, but no 7s. And that's what I need to finish this. So I'm just waiting to get the needles, and I was going to order them, but I'm going to Rhinebeck this weekend, so I might look for those there while I'm there and just pick those up. This is one of my favorite stitch markers. I don't like real life spiders. I mean, little baby ones don't bother me, but I just love this spider stitch marker. I got it from Molly at a Homespun House. She had a Harry Potter, she had a Harry Potter set, and this was in it, and it was from Chamber of Secrets, when Ron and Harry go into the woods. And then I'm also using these, which I'll show more of, but these, these little snagless ring markers, and they're from Such Wonderful Stuff. And ever since I've gotten them, unless it's the beginning of the round stitch marker, I like the dangle ones. But everything else, I've been using these snagless stitch markers, and I just love them. What else? And so I was really surprised that my brother, I would never have picked a fluorescent yellow hat for my brother, but he saw the yarn, he asked for it, and he works outside a lot, and I don't know if he just wanted a nice bright hat for the winter because it gets pretty cold. He works in western Pennsylvania, and the way this yarn knitted up was on size 7s with my gauge, and my gauge is what the pattern calls for, is really nice and dense. Like it's really going to keep the warmth in for him, which I'm really happy about because he spends most of his days outside. And this is living in my freckled whimsy bag with the giraffes and the nice bendable fold down. I use that a lot doing this. That's a really, really great feature about this bag. Pardon me, I'm sorry. I just need to get a drink of water. I apologize. My throat's not liking me talking this much. My third work in progress is just started. This is just a little itty bitty baby toe, and I am making these for my niece. I am doing, so this is my third Christmas gift, and I'm doing toe up tube socks by Jane Richmond for my niece and my nephew for Christmas. So this is my niece's, and when I was there this summer, we went to a yarn store, and she's really interested in knitting, and we've sort of dabbled a little bit in teaching her how to knit, but she just loves all the colors, and she's a really creative kid. And we were in the store, and she saw this yarn. This is Opal, and there is no colorway. I was looking last night, but it just says Opal Daydream, and it says it's a 6-ply, and the tag says it's 5508. But that's what the tag is saying. I don't know if you can see that. But it's just opal. I think a lot of you have probably knit with opal. This is the first time I've ever knit anything out of opal, let alone socks. And I was a little weary of the colorway, and once I started knitting it, I just love it. I think she picked out the perfect colors for herself. It's going to be this pretty rainbow stripe, and then the way this yarn is dyed, it has these little like short bursts of color, and there's going to be a texture pattern, which I'm really excited about. So I cast on 10 stitches for the toe, and then I did the seamless toe again that I did on my friend's socks, and then I increased to get 40 stitches, and that says it should give me about a 7.5-inch round foot. The largest size said 8, and my circumference for my foot is 9, and her foot is nowhere near that. And I still think this might have some give, but this is looking small on the needles, but I guess I'll find out, because I'm a pretty loose knitter, but this is going to be a nice dense fabric. I mean, really nice and dense. But it's knitting up a little bit tighter than my friend's socks. And that's because this is just a little bit heavier of a sock yarn than the Miss Babs Hot Shot. But I'm really liking how these are knitting up, and I'm going to make them as tall as I can. And if they don't fit, there is 150 grams in this ball, and I know I could make her a second pair, because my adult petty socks for a woman, and I wear a size 9, 9.5 shoe, I use 50 grams for 2 of those socks. So I will definitely have enough yarn to do at least 1 pair and definitely 2 pairs. And I'm doing these on US 1s. One of them is the Chalgu Red Lace, and the other one is the Addie Sock Rocket. Okay, and this is the project I'm taking with me to Rhinebeck. I'm just going to be there a couple days, and I think this will be enough to work on these 2 socks for, these 2 socks for those 2 days. I can't imagine myself knitting and walking around, because I think I'm just going to be so excited and overwhelmed, because this is my first trip to Rhinebeck. Hi everybody. I had to re-record this little section of the podcast, and I also noticed, so I'm inserting this in the middle, and there'll be a little bit of a jump, but I'm sorry about the head getting cut off. I don't know what happened. When I'm recording, it looks like I'm in full view, but the proportions cutting me off. So previous to this and post this, I apologize for the top of my head being cut off. But this was the whip that I had to re-record, because you couldn't see. It cut off all my work that I was showing you. And this is my Cozy Memories blanket. I added this square last week, which was from the mini skeins that Kristen from Yarngasm podcast sent me, and then I added this square this week, and this is the Lanai Yarns Across the Universe, and the little square is Koigu. I think the colorway is 950, and I just started on the square for the sock yarn that I used for my friend's Christmas socks. And I am using 32 stitches and 32 stitches for a total of 64 stitches. If I can do math. I'm not good at math. Apparently not even adding and subtracting. And then I'm knitting my sock yarn blanket on size 4, US size 4 needles. And then I just have my little stitch marker here in between. So That's about it for this project. And then I have my little, this is another one of my favorite project keepers. It's a little safety pin, and I use that to help remind me uh, which side to decrease on. So I just put it on the decrease side, and that way I just can't keep track. Maybe that's, I don't know, but it helps me to remember, and if I put it down, which side the decrease is on, and I don't forget, and I can keep track of my knitting. Okay, back to my other whips. And then my last whip is, oh no, it isn't my last whip. I have two more. Oh my gosh, I didn't realize how much stuff I had going on. My next to last whip is what I'm calling my Jellyfish Sweater. The pattern is Iridium by Lisa Much. The yarn is Miss Babs Kilimanjaro in the Deep Sea Jellyfish colorway. And I did modify this so far. Even on the neck and on the body, I'm using size 4 needles. That's what the pattern calls for. And I am getting stitch gauge, but my row gauge is bigger. So I'm going to have to try this on as I go to see where I get. And the pattern calls for a fingering weight yarn, like a 4-ply fingering, but this yarn is a light fingering to a heavy lace weight. It's much thinner than I think the pattern calls for. But personally, I think it's knitting up beautifully, and it looks really bright on the screen, but it's a little bit more muted in real life. And then my Progress Keeper, this is where I was the last time I showed it to you on my first episode, and this little Project Keeper is from Nicole C. Mendez, and it's a little Eiffel Tower. So this one isn't a priority, but on Friday, I pretty much just knit all that progress on Friday. There was a lot of traffic in the city. The subway was really backed up. There was tons of traffic, so I just jumped on the bus and knit, and then I got hooked on it, and I worked on it a little bit in the evening, and I made some progress. But this is the last thing I work on when I'm waiting for something else. And I couldn't take this next project with me on the bus. It's just too big. I think my voice is going. I'm sorry. Okay, my last whip in progress is my sweater for Christmas for my sister-in-law. And after I finished the socks for my friend, this is what I've really been concentrating on. So you can see all my stitch markers for decreases, and I'm just about finished with this first sleeve. I have maybe another 1/4 inch to finish, and this is still just knitting up beautifully. I am so happy with this. When I pick up, the only modification or anything that's different from the pattern or way anybody writes sort of their pickup sleeve patterns is down here at the, I don't know if you're going to be able to see this, but underneath here, when you pick up for the sleeves, if you don't, what I found out the way I knit, and maybe I'm just knitting wrong, but you always end up with these gaps. And there's a little bit of a gap there, but usually it's bigger. I pick up all those extra stitches when I'm knitting, and then I go back and weave and close them up with a little bit of yarn at the end. But that way I don't have such a big gap there, and that means that I get a few extra stitches. I usually get like 4 to 6 extra stitches on my sleeve. So I have to do a little bit more decreasing typically than any pattern says, because I pick up those extra stitches just so that I don't have the hole at the underarm where you're joining for the sweater. So I just had to do a few more decreases to get me down to the stitches I needed for the cuff of the sweater. That's the only thing that's really different on here. And the one thing I'm going to have to do on here, I've been thinking, is that this sweater, and I'm trying to find the back. I just dropped something. I keep the back of the sweater has short rows along the neck for shaping. And I made the same sweater for myself, and if you don't put it on right, you definitely notice the extra room in the front that you would need for the across the shoulder or across the back that the short rows give you that shaping for. And on my sweater, I know because I knit it, there's a pooling pattern that tells me that's the back of the sweater. So I know that. But when I give this to my sister-in-law, she's not going to know which is the front and the back. So I've been thinking, and I think I'm going to just embroider a little like asterisk or something lightly into the weave of the knitting, and so she knows which is the back and the front. I'd love to do like a lazy daisy or like a little paisley, but I don't think I can. I don't think I'm that good of an embroiderer to not go through all the stitches and you to be able to see the back of my work. So I'm just going to lightly put a little asterisk in the back, and I don't want to add a tag because she doesn't really like tags. So this I think will be an easy way for her to tell the back from the front, because otherwise there's, I mean, if you put it on, you know, but, you know, maybe she'll think I, you know, knit it weird or something like that. But this evening I'm hoping to start on this second sleeve, and I'd like to have this second sleeve done before I leave on Friday for Rhinebeck. And the yarn for this is Fido Worsted Burr. The color is Dire Wolf, and the pattern is Caramel Latte by Danny Sunshine. And I've knit 2 of these, and I love it. I just love this. If I ever knit this again, I think, because I'm going to have leftover fluorescent yarn from the hat I'm making my brother, and I was like, what am I going to do with fluorescent, you know, half a skein of fluorescent yellow yarn? And since I like to wear neutral colors a lot in my sweaters, well, I haven't knit any, but if I ever knit this sweater again in a neutral color, I'd like to do like a band on the arm where I did like white, fluorescent yellow, white, and then back to the neutral color. I think that would be a really nice pop, and to give some, you know, make something a little bit different. Pardon me, I'm really sorry. I thought I could do this without talking, but I don't think I've talked for a half an hour straight before since I've been sick. Okay, and this, I'm sorry, I haven't been talking about my project bags. This is in my Fawn and the Fox bag, and this is one of her medium-sized bags, and it is one of her tree prints. And I love the natural look of that tree print. It really just grabbed me. And then I'll just go back through my project bags. This is my Naughty Gnome project bag, and this is my Hook and Gauge project bag, and this, sorry, I had to reach down, it fell over. This is my very first project bag I brought this year, and you can see it's well loved, is my Homespun House project bag. And this is such a great size for carrying around in my tote. I use this a lot. Almost every day I take this bag with me. Okay, so what is next? Okay, acquisitions. Believe it or not, I only have a few. I have really put myself, excuse me one moment, I have really curtailed my yarn purchasing, anything fiber related purchasing, for the last 3 weeks. Everything that you see here was ordered at the beginning of September and has just come in over the last 2 weeks because I am trying to save for Rhinebeck. And I know Rhinebeck, I'm a little nervous about it because I think I'm going to be so overwhelmed with all the beautiful yarn, fiber, tools that's at that place, and I'm really going to be overwhelmed. Sorry, my eyes are a little watery from coughing. I probably will cut that part out of me coughing because it does not sound good. But my first acquisition that I've gotten in the last couple weeks is Desert Vista Dye Works. Diane from the Suburban Stitcher podcast talks about this yarn all the time, and I really wanted to try it out. And I really wish I'd have gotten 2 skeins of this. I really do. The colors are totally me. It's a self-striping. It's in her zine colorway. Zine base. And the colorway is Kiss Me at Midnight. It's a self-striping. It's 75% merino wool, 20% nylon, 5% stellina. And I don't know if you can see the sparkle. Yeah, you can see a little bit of the sparkle. But it is like 2 tones of pink and black, and it's going to stripe up so great. I really wanted knee socks out of these, but I need 550 to 575 yards for a pair of knee socks for me. And although this is generously sized, it's 438 yards. That's just not enough. But I think I'm going to knit these as long as I can and make 2 of these. I'm so excited about this. The other yarn I got, which I'm equally excited about, is I got one of Molly's at a Homespun House inaugural skein of yarn from her hand dyeing. She just started dyeing yarn, and this is Halloween. It's Olsen fingering. It's 75% superwash BFL, 25% nylon, 438 yards. And this looks, it's a little, my camera just makes everything so saturated, which I love the way it looks on screen personally, but it's not as bright. But again, this is right up my alley. It's got black and tones of purples in there, and I really like BFL for socks. I've knit my second pair of socks out of BFL, and they just turned out, it was so great to knit with that yarn. I'm really excited about that. And along with that purchase, I also got these Progress Keepers. And I think I got 5, and I must be using 1, but there's a hanger, a pipe, a dinosaur like a T-Rex, and those little peacock scissors. And I'm like hooked on Progress Keepers. I can't get enough of them. I must have like 15, and I don't have 15 projects, but I just love all the little things. And then my last thing that I got is these micro markers from Such Wonderful Stuff. And those are the snagless stitch markers that I've been using on, I don't know if you're going to be able to see this. They're teeny tiny. I can't even move my finger out of the way enough for you to see it. But these fit onto up to a size 3 needle, and I use these micro markers for all of my sock knitting. And they're really unobtrusive, and anytime I have to do anything, if I have to decrease, if I've made a decrease, I try to put in a stitch marker because I sort of get lost in my knitting. Like I'll just knit, and I'll forget that I've needed to do something. So I put stitch markers everywhere to cue me in that I need to stop and do something. So these really help me a lot. So I'm a huge fan of stitch markers. And then I also got more of her regular stitch markers, and they all come in I don't know if you can see the back. My light is reflecting. I'm sorry if this is making you sick, but that's the back. and I'll link these in the show notes, but this is her, I got fruit salad, and they're just her regular stitch markers. And she has also a jumbo set, but I haven't been knitting too many projects above a size 8 lately. Okay, so Rhinebeck. I am so excited. I even started, I am not an early morning, early packer. Usually I pack the night before I go anywhere. I come home, I know what I'm taking, I put it in a suitcase, and it takes me like an hour to get everything together, including my knitting or any sort of thing that I'm taking along with me on a trip. But what the heck? Sorry, I don't know if I was still recording, but my computer went to sleep. So I pulled out my weekender bag, I pulled out my bag I'm taking with me to Rhinebeck, and I have a couple empty shopping bags. And so I'm also one of those people that I don't pack early, but I plan early. If I'm taking a trip, I do research. I was one of those kids in college that before the first day of school or the classes start, I'd walk around to all of my classes so I knew where they were and all that kind of stuff. I just sort of like to have an idea where I'm going. I don't like to get lost, and I always map out. If I'm driving somewhere, I map it out. I look at a map. And so, of course, I had to prioritize Rhinebeck. So I don't know if you'll be able to see this or read it, but this is just my list of priority places to go. These are things I really want to see and booths that I'd like to check in on. There's three things that I really want to get for me that are must-haves. I really want to buy a spindle. I want to buy fiber, and I want to look for sock blockers. So those are the three things that if that's all I come back with, I'm fine with it. I don't think that's going to happen, but that's okay with me. And then I also have my check. Then I have a page of check out what I'm interested in, and if I get to these, that's just sort of icing on the cake. And I don't, I know Rhinebeck's supposed to be really crowded, and I don't know what I'm going to be able to see. And I don't want to just spend my whole day shopping and buying and filling up a bag. I really want to sit and meet people and look around and take in the scenery. I really hope I get to swing by the animal barns and things like that. I don't want to just, buy like it's a rush before Christmas shopping. But I also know I don't know what to expect. I've never been there before. But I'm really, really looking forward to that. And I'm going up on Friday morning. I'm driving upstate Friday morning. I wanted to, when I planned this trip, I didn't know about the Indie Untangled Rhinebeck show, which is Friday night, the Best Western in Kingston. And Kingston is just west of Rhinebeck across the Hudson River. And I'm really looking forward to go there, and I also have a list of vendors that I'd like to check out there as well. So I'm a little bit nervous about that part, but I'm super excited. I can't wait to see everybody. And so when I planned this trip to go to Rhinebeck, I intentionally scheduled Friday off to go up because I really would like to take in upstate New York. I'd like to look at a couple of things, stop by a couple of places that I know about. And I really wanted to be, before I got to Rhinebeck and got overwhelmed with everything at Rhinebeck, I wanted to have that day to sort of relax and just sort of be in the area, etc. So I'm really looking forward to that today. So I'm leaving at 9 a.m. from the city to head up upstate, and which is Rhinebeck's only about 2 hours from the city, give or take, depending on traffic in the morning. And then what I'm looking for besides spindles and fiber at Rhinebeck is the yarn I'm looking for. I am shopping for a purpose. I am not just going to say, ooh, that's pretty, I need to throw that in my bag. If I buy sock yarn, I want to buy 2 skeins of sock yarn so I can make myself some knee socks. So I know not to buy just a single skein of sock yarn. And then, like I said, I'm a planner. So I have this like my knitting queue, and I have these things of items that I'd really like to make. I've been making pretty sort of, I guess I call them, I don't mean basic in a bad way, but I mean basics in my wardrobe that I'm going to wear all the time, that are comfortable, that look good on me. And I don't do well with a lot of texture on my midsection. I like texture on the yoke part. I like texture down the sleeves. And so that's sort of where I'm going to go with my knitting next year. And then one of the things I've never made is a cardigan with a button band. So I'm looking for yarn, and I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but it's this cute little cardigan, this yellow cardigan at the top. That's the one I want to start with. And that's the yarn I'm looking for that. And it is a fingering weight. And it'll be knit on size 3 or 4 needles. And, I'll have to do a gauge swatch to double check that. But that's one of the things I'm looking for. And I know a lot of people don't like knitting in black. But the other thing I want to make next year is this ribby cardigan. And it reminds me of a zippered cardigan I had years ago. And it was my favorite cardigan. I wore it everywhere. Every time I traveled, anytime it got cool out, I always put that on, and I lent it to somebody and I never saw it again. So I really would love to knit myself a zippered black cardigan because I know I'm going to wear it and I'm going to get a lot of use out of it, and I know it looks good on me. And this is very, very similar to the one that I never got back. So those are the couple sweater things I'm looking for, and that's what I'm looking for sock yarn. And if I find some things for a shawl, that's fine, because the next shawl I want to knit up, once I get a couple of these, once I get my sister-in-law's sweater done, I'd like to do the For the Love of Rainbows shawl that Mina Phillip from the Knitting Expat podcast designed. I saw that was like actually one of the first episodes I ever saw of hers, was when she showcased her latest design, and immediately I knew that was the next shawl I was going to do. And I have yarn all ready to go for that. And mine's going to be gray with a pink gradient. So I'm like, already I just need to get some things off the needles before I start doing that. And then that will become, once I get my Christmas knitting done, that'll become my next priority, because I'd really like to have that for winter, and it looks like it'll wrap a lot. If you see me at Rhinebeck, I am going to definitely go and, not because I have a 3-episode podcast, but I want to meet some podcasters too. I plan on going to the podcaster meetup. So if you see me there, please say hi. If you see me walking around, come up and say hi to me. I would love to meet anybody. I love knitters. I think they're the greatest. I had a whole bunch of thoughts about how great knitting was last night, and I probably could take up a whole podcast thinking about my stream of consciousness about how what a great medium for creativity, and what a collaborative craft or artistic venture or creative endeavor that knitting is. I could go on and on about that. But I will be wearing my Rhinebeck sweater, the one I showed at my first podcast. It's hot pink, and I most likely, because it looks like it's going to be chilly, I'll most likely have a army green light jacket on over that. So that'll be me. Come up and say hi. I would love to say hello. That's why I started doing this podcast, is to meet more knitters and be part of the community. So I would love to say hello, and I will definitely be at the podcaster meetup so I can say hello to some of my favorite podcasters as well. I think that's about it. I really haven't done much. Being sick let me watch a little bit of TV. I really couldn't do much knitting. I was pretty down, but I did catch up on the Outlander second half of the season. I bought the first half on Amazon and saw that, and they just released the second part of the series last Friday or last weekend, I think. So I finally got to see that. Even though I read all the books, it'd been so long. It's been at least 10 years since I read those books. And it was fun to see and catch up and remember. I was like, oh, yeah, that happened. I'm like, I forgot about that. And I couldn't remember why they went to France. And so it was fun to watch that again. And because I don't have stars, so I have to wait. Excuse me. I had to wait for the season to come out on Amazon. And I just think they did such a great job. And the other thing that I was watching, because I've really been trying to take it easy this weekend, because I don't want to wear myself out for Rhinebeck. I want to be in as best shape as I can. So I've really stayed close to home this weekend. Well, really the last 2 weekends being sick. I watched a documentary about this woman named Iris. And she's a New York style icon. She had an exhibition of her wardrobe collection in 2005. And her name's Iris Apfel, and it's about an hour long, and it's really delightful about how this woman sort of collected all these things in her personality, and she's really eccentric. And if you like fashion, if you're into fashion, you'll really like that documentary. I enjoyed it a lot, and she's a real character. I really enjoyed it. And then I watched this years ago, but I rewatched it again recently. It's a TED's Talk, and a lot of you crocheters out there probably already know about this, and maybe some of you have already seen it anyways, but it's about how crocheting illustrated hyperbolic geometry, this high level math, and how crochet, and they called it a woman's handicraft, illustrated this complex geometry that mathematicians couldn't figure out how to model. And I'll link that in the show notes. It's great. Even if you don't crochet, I really don't know how to crochet, and I found it interesting. And it's only 15 minutes long, but it was a really great TED Talk. I love watching TED Talks. I get addicted to those. I've seen probably 500 of them, but that's one of my favorites. It's absolutely one of my favorites. And I'll link it in the show notes. It's definitely something to check out. Okay. Thank you so much for joining me this week. I look forward to Rhinebeck and sharing my experiences there with you and all the yarny palooza goodness I'm sure that's going to come out of that, and all the people and experiences I met. So happy knitting, and if you're at Rhinebeck, have a great time, and I hope to see you, and I'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye.